Tonight, NDC minority take on finance minister, accusing him of indirectly benefiting from controversial Japa royalties deal through a firm they claim he owns.
And by the way, be informed that conflict of interest is at the heart of corruption in the world and in Ghana. It remains a veritable source of it. The selection of Data Bank Brokerage Limited as book runner means that Data Bank profits every time the government issues bonds on the domestic market.
We tell you why the minority insists the deal violates the Constitution.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gasem Cement, the nation builder, and Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready. Well, tonight, the minority is going after the finance minister, accusing him of indirectly benefiting from the controversial Japa royalties deal through a firm they claim he owns. They point to Data Bank Brokerage Limited, which is the claim has been appointed as a book runner as part of the Japa royalties deal, and they claim that the company is going to be paid commissions amounting to some over the period since the finance minister became a minister, amounting to some 64 billion cedis over the period. They are questioning the issues of conflict of interest, and tonight raising questions about violation of the Constitution, and making a litany of demands on the government, including claims of secrecy in the attempt to get the Japa deal through Parliament, which they insist was done deliberately so the people's representatives will not ask the right questions. There's a lot to interrogate for you tonight on the day when the minority leader led his side to address a news conference on the issue, repeating the position expressed by the party's flag bearer that if they win power, they will not respect the deal as approved by Parliament. Listen to Harun Adrisu, who is the minority leader.
And therefore are operating with a loan. They've also mortgaged the energy sector levies of President John Dramani Mahama as he then was. You remember ESLA? And that is what they are using even to offset the legacy debt and energy sector. That one too, he has mortgaged. Superior thinking, superior debt management, superior MPP. They've mortgaged the GET fund receivables, they've mortgaged ESLA, and they have mortgaged the road fund even further from what they took it from the NDC government previous. So it is our submission that the assets are grossly undervalued for current valuation. The weight of our gold revenue and their projection need a further thorough probe by independent economic transaction advisors for us to appreciate that they are not ripping this country off. According to the government, the total royalties from the concession is about 150 million per annum. So they have enhanced my $115 million to 150 by their own public record. Japa is assigned 75.6% of this amount. That is over $113 million per annum. The deal is structured such that it can run into perpetuity. And those of you who are students of law, there is a popular law position on this, a rule against perpetuity. You don't do things and say forever and evermore. As for forever and evermore, it's only God who should be using that. Therefore, even if the transaction has a purported tenure of 15 years, the cash flow is nearly 1.7 billion. So why are you saying that you want only 1 billion? If you take their own arithmetic, 150 million reduced to $113 million, and you compute it into a 15-year period, not perpetuity, the worth should be in the region of $1.7 billion US. And knowing that gold prices can spike higher, we probably even can put it to $2 billion US. So why are you saying that government is getting $1 billion valuation for Ejepa? Who undertook the valuation? The minority demands. Conclusion: the use of tax haven as a location for investment fund can be very worrying for our rating in the money laundering arena. We will today put the London Stock Exchange and the Financial Conduct Authority on notice that this agreement does not meet the minimum requirements of diligence, transparency, minimum requirements of our Constitution, and
I want to bring in now the minority spokesperson on finance, Mr. Keksel Atofosing. Also joining me on telephone line right now is Member of Parliament for Sekindi, also a member of the Finance Committee, Mr. Evans Mensah, also joins me on the telephone line right now. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you.
Just some clarity from you, Mr. Atofosing. I just had the minority leader say that you are putting the London Stock Exchange on notice. What exactly is that about?
All right. Thank you very much. Yes. I think it's clear. What we're going to do is not a petition. It is indeed a letter notifying the Financial Conduct Authority and the London Stock Exchange that we, the members of the minority, have a major reservation on this agreement and would literally be listing all the reservations that we've had, including the fact that we do not believe that this agreement has, through the required due diligence. We also believe that even the case valuation, we think that the country Ghana has been changed with this current valuation model that has been implemented by administration. We believe that basic information that we require as representatives of the people were not given to us, including cash flow, including prospectus, for us to be independently conduct our own valuation and to satisfy ourselves that the deal is in the best interest of this country. Apart from that, we are seeing evidence some fee has been paid to people that are close to this administration. No one can verify and be able to know that this amount paid to people close to the administration were paid to them at arm's length or not. And
I mean, I've heard you make this allegation before that monies have been paid to people close to this administration. I need evidence to back this. Who are these people? How much have they been paid? And what's the evidence to back this?
At the committee, we saw a number of companies that has been engaged for the purposes of putting together this transaction. One of these companies is Africa Legal Associates. We know that the person who owns the company, Mr. Gabi Ochredako, is indeed a cousin to our sitting president and the finance minister. And we know that, yes, he wrote some important influence in this administration, for sure. And so, therefore, if such a person is to get a contract, we want to be sure that the amount that they have paid him or they are yet to pay him is at arm's length or not. So that is our concern.
The finance minister last week explained.
We don't know how much. The finance minister informed us in Parliament, the next minister, that so far they have paid up to $2 million US. We put it to him that we are
to the transaction advisors.
To the transaction advisors.
The finance minister said this on the floor.
The deputy minister of finance, the Honorable Ebudwahin, told all of us at the committee that they have paid up to $2 million US. But we said that we want to know how much is going to cost the state. And he said they have paid so far $2 million, and he will provide the rest later. We said that is not good enough because we are hearing that an amount of up to about $5 million has been expanded to date. So to prove us wrong, we want to see the prospectus and to know how much is going to cost the state.
Okay.
And that is what he said to us.
If you can give me a second, let me bring in Evans Mensah. Mr. Mensah, is it true that the government side, in briefing the finance committee, stated that they've already paid $2 million to transaction advisors?
Well, good afternoon to your listeners. Indeed, before it's important I debunk my very good brother just made. He asserted that Parliament given the basis of evaluation that no cash flows were given to Parliament. That obviously is a falsehood because in 3 years of evaluation provided to Parliament. Secondly, as far as I know, Africa is the party which has several parts, of which Agabi is one. So, for this, Mr. is the oath of African leader can obviously not be accurate. Indeed.
Mr. Evans Mensah, pardon me, you're making such an important point, but the line to you is breaking. So I'm going to get my producers to reconnect to you, re-establish a connection to you, and hopefully we could get a better connection so we could hear your submission on this very important matter. But I still have with me Mr. Kaysel Atofosing. Mr. Atofosing, as we wait for Mr. Japa to come back on the question you've asked about the $2 million that you allegedly was paid to the transaction advisors, I want to get some clarity on the letter you're writing to the Financial Services Authority and the London Stock Exchange. Have you written this already, and when do you intend to?
Before I go there, let me say that you asked Japan a simple question, whether it's true or not, and he has still not answered the question. It was just
the line wasn't good. I'm hoping that he will join us.
You ask him again. But let me tell you, these are words that came from the mouth of the Deputy Minister of Finance, not my mouth. But back to the letter. The letter is going to go to the Financial Conduct Authority and the London Stock Exchange. And as the minority leader stated, that after this press conference, this letter is going to go. So I'm sure that by close of day tomorrow, that letter will go.
Okay.
And it is a notice. We are putting them on notice about our reservations and the fact that whatever our position is will be stated in the letter.
Okay, and I also need to establish. So, what's the point of that letter? What do you want the Financial Services Authority and the London Stock Exchange to do once you send in this letter?
I think we've made it clear that we in the entity will respect this agreement, and we believe that this agreement is tainted with some corrupt activities. We also believe that the fact that government is hiding from the sovereign people of this country some legitimate and significant documentation points to the fact that government is hiding something. And until we get that information, we, the members of the minority and the future NDC government, will not respect that agreement that they are putting in place.
Let's go to some of the central points you made in your statement today. The one I saw is you accusing the finance minister of conflict of interest. What is the basis of that?
I think our point is straightforward. That when we talk about conflict of interest, we should not only look at what has just happened in the sense that someone very close to the government and where his cousin, one is the president, one is the finance minister, is benefiting from a government major transaction agreement. And as to whether the amount I was paid to him is at arm's length or not. We do not even have the numbers to actually.
Mr. Foster, forgive me. Your friend and colleague. I'll come to that. Your friend and colleague just joined us back. His line wasn't great. If you can hold on for me, let me bring him in so he can answer the question that I asked him to him earlier. Mr. Mensah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Evans, I can hear you.
The line is great. So the question was the allegation that the government side had admitted from the Deputy Finance Minister we've already paid $2 million to transaction advisors even before we even move. Is that accurate?
Well, I was responding to some assertions that Ato had made relative to the cash flows that he alleges the ministry did not provide to Parliament. That is obviously false, because indeed the Ministry of Finance provided Parliament with 3 years cash flows, based on which Parliament could have made an assessment of the valuation. Secondly, African Legal Associates, as far as I know, it's a partnership.
Just on that first point, you said 3 years cash flow. What are the specifics?
I do not have the specifics with me as we speak, but it cannot be denied that indeed the cash flows that were expected from the mineral royalties over a 3-year period was provided to Parliament.
In what form was this? Was it in proper documented form, or somebody just simply came before the House and repeated or claimed that this was a cash flow?
The way the parliamentary committee works is that documents are submitted to Parliament for approval, in this case agreements, based on which Parliament then interrogates and asks questions. The questions that Parliament poses to the ministry then elicits responses and further documents from Parliament to, as it were, confirm or inform Parliament in making a determination as to whether that agreement ought to be recommended to plenary for approval. So this is usual. It is not every document that is within the custody of the ministry that is laid as part of the general agreements that are laid on the floor. But when they appear before committee, they assist by providing further and better particulars, if you like, relative to the transaction, that then enables Parliament and indeed the committee to make a determination. I'm suggesting to you, as a matter of fact, that a 3-year cash flow was submitted to the committee at the meeting. Okay? Now, secondly, Gabi is a partner of African Legal Associates and not the owner. We need to get that distinction clear. Third, to my knowledge, the Honorable Finance Minister has not been directly or indirectly involved with Data Bank.
I'm sorry, I'll come to the Data Bank issue, but I asked a direct question about the $2 million that...
No, of course, I will come to that.
I mean, you can address that. That's my direct question. I'll come to the Data Bank issue. The minority
can point to one transaction, equity transaction in this country that hasn't got the footprint of Data Bank.
Mr. Jaffa, if you don't mind allow me, yes, I'll come to the Data Bank issues, yes.
Indeed, the Deputy Finance Minister confirmed that over the past 2 years, the transaction advances that have been engaged, including lawyers, accountants, audit firms, PR firms, have been paid $2 million. Yes, that was confirmed.
And this is justified from the taxpayers' money?
Why is it not justified? We raise euro bonds. We go on road shows prior to the bonds being issued. It costs money. We prepare prospectus. It costs money. We engage consultants. It costs money. How is it unusual to pay transaction advisory fees on a transaction that is intended to be executed by the government of Ghana? So how is it unusual?
So this $2 million went to the 3 law firms?
No, it's gone to all the transaction advisors, including accountants, audit firms, PR firms, and lawyers.
And Parliament has a full account of them because you've spent the taxpayers' money. You must account for this.
You see, Evans, it is strange how my friends in the NDC are arguing, because indeed Ato himself knows that in a transaction of this nature, the use of proceeds are spelled out, and that transaction advisory fees are allowed. Okay? And that as part of the prospectus, all the use of the proceeds will be indicated in the documents. So where really are they saying? It's unbelievable. And I hear him say that they asked for prospectus and we were refused. Look, I was in the committee meeting. The Deputy Minister of Finance was categorical that, look, IPOs are a sensitive transaction. They include forward-looking documents that ought to go through a certain approval process. We are listing on the London and Ghana stock exchanges. The regulators ought to approve those prospectus that contain all the transaction information, including the final valuation and the pricing, before those documents can be made public. In any event, Evans, what is an initial public offering? It is what its name suggests. It is the first time that a public offering is being made for people to participate in an equity transaction. So how can you say that this transaction is shrouded in secrecy when you know, as a matter of fact, that it is premature at this point to provide you to that?
Okay, just two quick questions, and I'll come back to Mr. Atuforsi. Clarity. So the $2 million we've already paid to transaction advisors, to accountants, etc. Clarity. Have we accounted for this to Parliament?
It's part of the transaction cost. And of course, when the transaction is concluded, the additional fees that are due to the transaction advisors will be paid.
So what it means is that the $2 million will be higher. I mean that amount will definitely go up. It's not the end.
Absolutely.
Okay, but the fundamental question. Okay, but it will go way higher. Do you know how much?
No, I cannot indicate, but there are indications on the market how the cost of transaction fees of a transaction of this nature. Evans, you see?
Yeah, I mean, just a second. I think you've answered the question. I want to bring in Atuforsi.
Just before you go, if you may.
30 seconds.
Please.
If you may.
Let's not kid ourselves. All the debt instruments that we raise include transaction costs that are part of how much we pay out of the profits that we generate.
Yeah, I mean, the question is about being transparent about it. Yeah, the question is about being transparent about it. I want to bring in Atuforsi. Mr. Forsing says the money, yes, was paid, and they've been transparent and accounted to Parliament on this.
I'm surprised that Evans Mensah is actually spewing lies on your platform to say that it was accounted to Parliament. I want him to tell us who had hot among the transaction advisors, and for him to list for all of us to know who the transaction advisors are. I heard him mention accounting firm and auditing firm. Who are the accounting firms and auditing firms? I am not aware of one because they did not inform us. I asked a question that can we be furnished with the cost, how much is going to cost us as a country in terms of going through the process, and to give us a breakdown of who has been paid so far, and the government refused to give us that breakdown. Only for the government to inform us that they have paid only up to $2 million to date. And I put it to them that I have heard that you have spent up to $5 million. Can you prove me otherwise by giving us documentation to prove that this is how much you are paying in fees? The government failed to come back to us. I also heard him speak, and he made mention that things like use of proceeds will be in prospectus. Since when? Since when did we get use of proceeds for an equity instrument in a prospectus? I mean, please, we should go back and check it again. The use of proceeds in this case is going to be the money that we are going to get. And if we are to get it, the only place you could find it is in the budget statement. And if not the budget statement, it should have been an addendum that the minister responsible for finance should have submitted to Parliament for all of us to approve. But most importantly, the reasons why we were asking those significant questions was for us to be able to independently value the transaction. It is in our interest as members of Parliament representing the good people of Ghana to be able to independently verify and value the transaction that we are talking about. The government is telling us that after taking our mineral royalties, in perpetuity, into a new vehicle called a Japa, the value of the transaction is going to be 1 billion. It is until government gives me the cash flows from day one to the time that we expect to finish the deal in perpetuity or for the 15 years they are talking about. That is when I will be able to use that cash flow and then come out with a present value. And then back on the issue of the cash flow.
Yeah, Mr. Mensah,
when I raised the question, and I insisted that we need a cash flow. The minister said they are going to give us some form of cash flow. After we left the meeting, the chairman of the finance committee sent to me through WhatsApp a 3-year cash flow. And I sent to him back that I reject that. So that 3-year cash flow will not be the basis for me to independently.
But at least they give you a 3-year cash flow.
The cost of the transaction.
But at least they give you a 3-year cash flow.
But what is 3-year cash flow? I don't just need a cash flow. I need a cash flow with an assumption. And for me to have the cash flow, that is enough for the entire duration of the contract, so that I will be able to verify the valuation.
But very quickly, let's go to that.
On news file, the deputy minister informed me and said to all of us that yes, the remaining forward-looking cash flows is in the process and they cannot make it available at this stage. So why are you hiding it?
Let's go to the other central plank of your accusations today. That you said because Data Bank is involved as a brokerage firm in this deal, there is conflict of interest and the finance minister is indirectly benefiting. But Mr. Japa posed a question to you that if you can point to a time in the recent past, including under your administration, where Data Bank was not involved in these processes, what's the point you're making there? Isn't this point also accurate, that this isn't Data Bank's involvement in these transactions is not only limited to this in the last 3 years when the finance minister has been in the office?
Thank you very much. I think you've asked a very important question. We raised 2 points here. We said that Data Bank is today part of the book runners, those that actually represent Ghana or lead Ghana for the issuance of domestic bonds. Domestic bonds. And let me put on record that in the past, Data Bank wasn't involved. So if Japan wants me to point to it, I'm pointing to it. They were not part of those who does book building, and they were not part of it. Today, as a minister responsible for finance, a company that we all know that this minister has relationship with, and in fact, look at the Shraj matter. It was specific. His relationship with the company Data Bank. And then what we are saying is that in the year 2019 alone, from the domestic side, government issued bonds worth 64 billion Ghana cedis. This 64 billion Ghana cedis that government of Ghana issued bonds for, our minister responsible for finance and his company will benefit from a percentage because they charge, let's say, 1% or 0.5% of the amount as fees. So if you are there as a minister of finance and your company is the one that is actually going out there and borrowing for you, and you are profiting from that company, we want to be sure that does he have any form of restricting borrowing? Because he benefits from it. It's in a situation. You want to make sure you constrain borrowing to reduce the public debt. At the same time, your company is profiting from a particular debt. So what is happening? Apart from that, we have issued Eurobonds. In fact, since the to office, we have issued up to $5 billion. His company, again, is part of it. His company is again part of it. And they are also earning what we call fees. And this fees is actually going on and on and on and on. Because it's safe and it's a way that they can easily make money. I mean, we believe that our minister responsible for finance is conflicted. It's conflicted. And he shouldn't be putting himself in that position because he has a responsibility to also reduce the public debt.
Mr. Mensah, even if the Data Bank was involved in the past, seeing that he's a finance minister and he's linked to Data Bank, shouldn't he simply make sure that relationship is severed, at least whilst he's in office?
Evans, this is a lot of hot air without any substance, with all due respect to my good friend Ato. I indicated to you earlier that the Honorable Ken Oforiatta has not been directly or indirectly involved with Data Bank since 2008. And that's a matter of fact. Okay? In any event, you see, what was the total revenue and expenditure budget of Ghana in 2019 for him to allege that we raised bonds domestically of 64 billion?
If you don't say
Check
you don't
the
know,
figures and you will see exactly the level of exaggeration that our friends are seeking to put on figures that they put out, clearly to raise a certain perception in the minds of Ghanaians that somebody is doing something untoward. Every single IPO in this country, every single corporate transaction, corporate finance transaction that involves the state, has involved Data Bank. As a matter of fact, because they are the number one brokerage firm, investment banking firm in this country. This is well known. In any event, I'm glad that he makes an admission that indeed a cash flow statement was given to the committee. Because I heard him earlier suggest that no such document was presented to the committee. Now that he's confronted with the fact, I'm glad that he's graciously admitted.
Okay, and
obviously,
but very, very briefly.
Look, Evans, you saw the indemnity agreement that was part of the transaction document that was submitted to Parliament, seeking to indemnify Merrill Lynch International, BMO Capital Markets Limited, JP Morgan Securities PLC, Peel Hunt LLP, and Tamesis Partners LLP.
And the point of that is?
Because these entities are part of the transaction advisory team.
So those are the people that we paid the $2 million to.
No, so to suggest that the transaction advisors were not made or disclosed to the committee can.
No, but he's asking more than that. He's saying that you listed them. How much did you pay Merrill Lynch, for example? He's asking the details.
No, I don't have that detail, but
that's what he's requesting.
I did not say that detail was made available to Parliament.
Okay, but can that detail? But don't you think that detail is necessary?
I don't have a problem, but I'm saying that the costs that have been paid to the transaction advisors collectively is what the Deputy Finance Minister informed Parliament.
Amounted to $2 million.
It is legitimate to ask for detail, and I don't have a problem. But I'm saying that even as part of every transaction, there are costs that are associated with the transaction that is usual to be paid.
Yeah.
So let it not be said by the NDC, led by my friend Atoforson, and indeed the minority leader, that something untoward had occurred because some transaction advisory fees have been paid.
Mr. I'm grateful that you I'm grateful that you joined me with your thoughts. Case Atoforson, also, who is a minority spokesperson on finance, as you heard, the minority says they are writing to the Financial Services Authority and the London Stock Exchange to put them on notice about the suspicions and issues that they have with the JAPA deal. I mean, there's a confirmation there also from Mr. JAPA from Parliament, the majority side, that indeed it's a fact that the Finance Minister had admitted to paying in excess of $2 million to the firms involved in getting this deal through. And he says this cost is set to go up. Still ahead.
Opposition NDC condemns assault on its Odododio MP Neelanti Vanderpoy as it demands the immediate arrest and prosecution of the perpetrators. The party has served notice a future NDC government will deal with the matter should the police fail to act.
We expect that investigations will be conducted and the perpetrators brought to. But should they be left off the hook, like the perpetrators of the Ayawaso West Wagon violence were left off the hook, they should know that they will not walk free forever.
Also coming up, Ochehene Osajefo Amwetia for opinion distances himself from the chief of Achimumpunua for who triggered clashes at Domfase and calls on the IGP to arrest and prosecute perpetrators of that violence.
Time without number, invited Balfour Saponkuma to respond to some of these allegations. But he had disrespected summons to appear before the Chief Executive Council. So we are stating categorically that Achim Obuakwa does not recognize Balfour Saponkuma as the Mpunuahen of Achim Obuakwa.
Also tonight, President Akufo-Addo calls on voters to reject politicians promoting ethnic agenda for selfish gains.
I, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, have struggled long and hard to become president of this country. And I measure my success in Ghana being a happy, united and prosperous place for all her citizens.
Well, he's been wooing voters in the NDC's stronghold of the Volta region. We have more as the president steps up water improvement in the region. But Roads and Highway Minister admits only 39% of roads in the country can be classified as good.
And in business, security industry players lament sector's confidence hit badly over delays in paying locked up funds.
Also tonight, Aviation Minister opens up about lack of a financial viability study for the Cape Coast Airport proposed in the NPP's 2020 manifesto.
I'm just asking about, have you done a viability assessment?
About the developer will have to come and do that.
So we don't have a viability assessment?
We cannot go about doing everything for partners who come and...
So as of today, you don't know whether it is commercially viable to have an airport in Cape Coast or not?
All the airports you cannot really tell. There's always a viability gap on all the airports in Ghana. No airport is viable in Ghana.
We have details of that and more, and later we continue our Manifesto Tracker series with a focus on the Bibiani logging and lumber project in Kase, where owners of the 40-year-old company say they have not received any government support yet. The project has been captured in the list of projects the government has undertaken. We have details of all that for you, plus your thoughts. 0244340437. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am MFA Paul.
All the details after the break.